So look at who we got coming into court today. We got Jodi Hildebrandt. Now, roughly about a week ago, Ruby Franke also had a court appearance as well. Similar to Ruby Franke's hearing last week, it's a waiver hearing. So they're essentially waiving to have a preliminary hearing where the state goes over the evidence, and then like the defense will have a time to cross-examine some of the witnesses that they have on there, but they're waiving that. So we were like, well, maybe there's a plea deal going on. That's what a lot of people were speculating. And lo and behold, that is what happened in Ruby Franke's situation. I'm gonna boost the audio up. I wonder who she's looking for in the courtroom. Do you think she has any family members there supporting her? Anyone, any members of her church there? It looks like she's like scanning the room right now. She looks perplexed. Any lip readers? Jodi, she kind of looks pissed. You see like the furrowing of the eyebrows. Like, I'm not a body analyst or anything like that, but I mean, I'm noticing like this, you know, like she's kind of like, oh, fuck, man. Pissed, worried, scared. Paul says, little judgmental on my part, but I thought she was looking for the camera. To me, I thought she was just scanning the room to see if like she recognizes anyone. Hi, Chip's dad. How are you doing today? Because maybe Jodi wasn't planning to. Maybe Jodi's like, no, I'm going to trial. I'm going to win this. I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe she didn't expect Ruby Franke to turn against her.
All rise. The court in Washington County, State of Utah, now in session. The Honorable John J. Walton presiding. You may be seated.
Oh, no caption, sorry.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to District Court. We are here this morning in the matter of State of Utah versus Jodi Hildebrandt, case 231501763. Mr. Clark and Mr. Sham are here representing the state of Utah, and Mr. Terry is here with Ms. Hildebrandt. We are scheduled for a waiver of preliminary hearing. Mr. Terry, it appears you have just handed the court a signed plea agreement.
That is correct, Your Honor. With respect to the waiver, Ms. Hildebrandt, we have had discussions. She fully understands the purpose of a preliminary hearing, what the burden of proof would be, and that she has the right to a preliminary hearing, but in conjunction with the entry of her plea today, we waive the preliminary hearing.
And in fact, there is a provision in the written plea agreement that operates as a waiver of the preliminary hearing. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like looking at her face and like, it's just a lot of, I don't know, I'm just sensing a lot of like anger, contention.
Ms. Hildebrandt, I've been handed a written document, a plea agreement with your signature on it. Did you sign that document?
Yes.
And you did that to represent to the court that you have read the document carefully, that you understand what you've read, that you agree to all of the terms that are set forth in that written document?
Yes, sir.
You've had sufficient time to ask Mr. Terry any questions that you have about the agreement or its potential effect?
Yes.
Is anyone pressuring you to enter into this agreement, or is anyone promising you anything that I haven't been told about or that is not in the written document?
No.
Are you under the influence of alcohol or drugs today?
No.
Is there anything today that could interfere in any way with your ability to understand the agreement, its potential consequences?
No.
No physical condition, mental health, or emotional condition, nothing that could interfere with your present ability to evaluate the agreement and decide if it's what you're prepared to do today?
No.
You don't need more time, you're ready to go.
Yes.
Any further record, counsel?
Your Honor, the agreement contains a factual basis. There are a few details in the factual basis that we are not in full agreement with. However, this is a guilty plea. It is not an Alford plea. The factual basis sets forth facts that we agree with, that Ms. Hildebrandt agrees with, that are sufficient for the court to accept her plea with respect to the 4 counts.
A little interesting there. So the lawyer is saying, well, in the plea agreement, there are some facts on there that we don't agree to. But we're only going to agree to it because we know if we don't agree to it, the court might not accept it. And, the state prosecutor, they probably want us to accept this. So a little interesting there, because I don't think Ruby Frankie's lawyer said that during her hearing. She's essentially saying, like, there's some things in there that's not true. But, we're just going to accept it just because the court's going to, otherwise probably going to accept our plea agreement.
That's
what I'm hearing.
We agree with, that Ms. Hildebrandt agrees with, that are sufficient for the court to accept her plea with respect to the 4 counts to which she is pleading guilty. And so we ask the court to accept her plea agreement.
Are you allowed to do that? I thought that like, I don't know anything about this, right? But like, I thought when you accept a plea deal, you have to accept everything in that document is like true, where it's like, you can't just accept it just because for the sake of like, just having a plea agreement and having better outcome for your sentencing, right? I thought it has to, everything, you have to agree that it's all factually true, because like, what if later on she's like, you know what, I accept a plea deal, but there are some things in there that I didn't even do. I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do this, and that. Like, she could just go on later on saying that like she didn't do X, Y, and Z and still try to prove her innocence on some of the things.
Apart from what is in the written factual base in the plea agreement, you have, I'm assuming, reviewed voluminous discovery. You don't dispute whether there is an actual or an adequate factual basis.
We do not.
Kayla says the plea agreement mentions Jodi made EF jump into the cactus multiple times, which wasn't a part of Ruby's. I don't remember it being in Ruby's. So I'm going to go back a little bit.
Voluminous factual base in the plea agreement, you have, I'm assuming, reviewed voluminous discovery. You don't dispute whether there is an actual or an adequate factual basis.
We do not.
All right.
Okay, so there's an
Anything
adequate.
else before the court receives Ms. Hildebrandt's pleas?
No, Your Honor.
Nothing for the state, Your Honor.
Then, Ms. Hildebrandt, how do you plead to count 1, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 3, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
To count 5, aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
And to count 6, also aggravated child abuse, a second-degree felony?
Guilty.
The court finds that there is a sufficient factual basis. The court, in addition, finds that Ms. Hildebrandt's pleas are made knowingly and voluntarily. The court therefore accepts and enters those pleas, dismisses the remaining 2 counts. We are anticipating a PSI, although part of the plea agreement appears to be that Ms. Hildebrandt will not contest a prison sentence.
Correct.
Is that right?
If I remember correctly, PSI stands for, I think, pre-sentencing investigation, I guess, where they'll, like, I don't know, outline everything, and I guess the probation is going to determine what they think the sentencing is appropriate for her situation. Why do we give a plea deal? Seriously, no one that hurts a child should be offered a plea deal. I can see why they did this, because having the children to go up there and testify against their abusers, and they're pretty young children, it's pretty fucking traumatic. Like, let's say that, like, by the time the trial does happen, they could be entering in their early teens, maybe, but that's still a tough thing to do. You're going up there, you're testifying, in front of the judge, in front of like you guys, when you guys were like in school, was like public speaking ever like an issue for you guys? Even though like you knew the topic, you knew the subject, you like did a really good job, knowing the topic really well and all that stuff. But then when you're up there presenting, you're just like, oh fuck, like this is the hardest thing ever. Like, imagine being up there in front of like all these adults, a whole gallery of people. And then, although you have like the state prosecutor who's seemingly on your side, but then when the defense goes up there and starts questioning you, like, that's pretty fucking hard. I think even for adults, a lot of adults will choke up when they're up there on the stand. It's a very tough and nervous thing to do. So, to have to spare the children from all that, I think it's good. I think it's good to do that. But I mean, it doesn't mean that Jodi's going to get we actually don't know. I mean, I think Ruby Frankie, honestly, I could see her getting between like 4 to 8 years, possibly. Jodi Hildebrandt, maybe 5 to 10 years. I don't know.
Yes, although part of the plea agreement appears to be that Ms. Hildebrandt will not contest a prison sentence. Is that right?
That is correct. But we are asking for a PSI.
All right, then the court orders the preparation of a pre-sentence investigation report and set sentencing at 10:30 a.m. on February 20th.
Same date at Ruby Frankie's. Ruby Frankie's on February 20th as well for her sentencing, and I think it's at 10 a.m. So I wonder what time Jodi Hildebrandt's will be.
Anything else for today, counsel?
Nothing from us, Your Honor.
Nothing from us, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. We'll be in recess.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I feel like she's trying to come across as like being like, having sorrow, sadness, but instead of like, I don't know, I guess her like body language doesn't do a very good job at translating it, or at least to me. And I am seeing a side view, maybe I can't see the whole face, but like, do you guys remember when AH was like the times where AH was in the courtroom, and I felt like she was trying to project sadness as well, or like victim, sadness, pity, but like instead her body language was like very opposite of what she was trying to project. Her body language was very like, and it was very like angry. It was like the furrowing of the eyebrows. It was like she was trying so hard to, show people in the courtroom and the audience as well that like, like I am a victim in all of this. I'm really sad, but like her body was just working against her. That's kind of like the feeling that I'm getting with Jodi Hildebrandt, but I mean, I don't know. That's just an observation. Do we have the documents for the plea deal agreement?
Because she wants pleas. She decided to plead guilty before Ms. Frankie entered into her plea agreement or agreed to cooperate with the state. She has pled guilty because she did not want these children to have to testify. She takes responsibility, and it is her main concern at this point that these children can heal, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah, that's the loudest it can go. I can't boost the audio on this because it's on Twitter, not on YouTube. But Terry says that Hildebrandt made the decision to plead guilty before Ruby Frankie did. Because remember, I was wondering before, I was like, well, I wonder if Jodi didn't want to plead guilty. Maybe Ruby was the one who did it first, and that's why she had her court date up first, and that's why she was agreeing to plead or to testify against Jodi Hildebrandt. But this attorney said that, like, no, she pled guilty before Ruby Frankie did. He said his client's plea represents her effort to take a responsibility and allow minor victims to avoid having to testify in the trial. Prosecutors explained that a deal stipulates Hildebrandt will be subject to prison time for each count to run consecutive, not concurrent. Okay, so that's similar to Ruby Frankie's as well. Said that while there were some issues on the factual basis of the plea agreement with prosecutors, he specified that the plea was guilty and not an Alford plea in which the defendant pleads guilty without admitting wrongdoing. Okay. I just not sure if she's going to like say like, oh, there are some things in there that I didn't do, but interesting because I've never heard of Alford plea before.